Today I'm going to tell you a story of the time I received an offer twice as big as the offer that I received just the day before. But this is not the point of this video. Hey, Vlad here from devinside.com. Welcome to the fourth video related to jobs. And in this one, we're going to talk about soft skills. As already mentioned, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, and so we're going to use the term people skills instead. If you're new here, you should know that this is mostly a Scala channel. However, I make videos about all kinds of software development related topics like this one, so look around. Maybe there's something for you. Before we get into the video, please help me fix this. We are on the road to 10K subs. And you could make it happen today if you wanted to. And also hit the like button while you're at it. It's a very easy way to show your support. Thank you. This video was brought to you by awesome people like yourself who support me on Patreon. Your contributions go directly into this channel. They allow me to pay for an editor who frees some of my time, which I then choose to spend again with you, whether it's during live streams or answering your questions on Discord. There's many of you and only one of me, so all it takes is $1. Thank you. All right, now the story that I mentioned in the intro is at the end of this video. So if this is the only reason why you're here, feel free to check out the timestamps. No hard feelings. The goal for this video is to try to change your mindset about the meaning of the word career. It is to explain why you're probably underpaid, not advancing as fast as you could, maybe even arguing with your project managers, and also many other things that might not even make sense to you before you finish watching. Let's be honest, most of us just want to write code and build cool shit, but the truth is, that's just not enough. Cool, now I could write an entire book about people skills, so I'll probably make more videos about this in the future. In fact, it took me a week to write the script because I couldn't decide which parts of my knowledge are the crucial ones. No worries, I found it. It's not the what or the how, it's the why the people skills are so important. As already mentioned several times in my previous videos, I'm a big fan of people like Simon Sinek and Jocko Willink, who are leadership experts. Now, leadership is about leading people, and so the majority of the content that they produce is about people skills. That said, what we're going to talk about today comes from somewhere else. Whenever I make talking head videos, I often skim through the table of contents of the books that I read in the past. By the way, I have a playlist with book reviews, so you might want to check it out. For this one, I took a look at the book called Soft Skills, the Software Developer's Life Manual, written by John Sonmez. A couple of words about the author. He used to run a business and/or a YouTube channel called Simple Programmer, but he then later moved on from making tutorials to giving life advice. He rebranded his entire channel, and now it's called the Bulldog Mindset. Now, before you dive into his content, please be aware that John can be very polarizing, so you're very likely to either love him or hate him, but there is no middle ground. What stood out to me is that the first chapter is renamed in the second edition. It used to be called Getting Started with a Bang. Don't do what everyone else does. But in the second edition, it's called Treat Your Career Like a Business. And this is precisely what we're going to talk about today, treating your career like a business. In fact, even though I mentioned Simon Sinek, Jocko Willink, and now even John Sonmez, the majority of this video is influenced by another book that is not written by any of them. We'll talk about it in a second. See, the problem is that when I read Soft Skills, which was 8 or 9 years ago, even though the first chapter was called differently, the angle was still the same. I've consumed a lot of John's content over the years, and he very often talks about the difference between an employee mindset and the business owner mindset. The problem was that I couldn't envision myself as a business owner at the time, and I believe that many of you watching this video right now might feel the same. When growing up, I didn't have any businessmen or women around me, and so I never had this desire to start my own company or become an entrepreneur. I was a naive kid who had a very simple playbook for life. Go to school, go to university, get a job, get married, kids, house, plant a tree, all of that stuff. So you can imagine how hard it was to understand the things that John was saying at the time. I'll give you one example. Let's see how it makes you feel. In one of his content pieces, he talked about the fact that you are a programmer, you are not supposed to know how to write a good CV. So you have a choice. You either stop honing your technical programming skills for a while and invest in your CV writing skills, or you pay somebody $500 to write it for you. I know, right? This is exactly how I felt back then. Even though I always had a good programmer salary and I had this money in the bank and spending it would not have altered my lifestyle in any way, I simply could not imagine doing this. No way. The problem was not the money. The problem was the mindset. And so I will spend the rest of this video trying to change yours. Now let's talk about my friend who loves to make cakes. She came to me one day and she said, you know what, I'm thinking about opening my own bakery one day. Guys, you have no idea how lucky she was to have me around on that day. Just a few weeks prior, I finished another book, which is the main topic of today's video. Yes, we're finally getting somewhere. The TLDR is that I told my friend, and these were my exact words, no you don't. You don't want to start a business because you don't know anything about running a business. And so you either learn about it or you don't open a bakery. By the way, opening a bakery was coincidentally exactly the same example that they ran with in the book that we're going to talk about. It's called The E-Myth Revisited: Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. The main idea of the book is the premise that there is a difference between working in the business as opposed to working on the business. And both are important. Instead of explaining what this means, you can read the book for that, I'll just give you a couple of examples. Let's start with me, the content creator. Learning how to write a script, actually writing the script, recording and editing videos is working in the business. Choosing which videos to make, working on the thumbnail, researching the title, announcing the videos on social media, interacting in the comments, and getting sponsors is working on the business. Many content creators, the same as many other small businesses, suffer to find time to work on the business, and so working in the business becomes priority, which is also the reason why most small businesses fail. Making a video first and only then start thinking about how to call it and how the thumbnail will look like is the employee mindset. The business mindset is understanding that you could even be Steven Spielberg himself, but if no one searches for your video because you didn't optimize the title for SEO, and no one clicks on your video because your thumbnail is not clickable, well, then nobody's going to watch your video. And if nobody's going to watch your video, then maybe making the video shouldn't be the first step in the process. Now let's take my friend who wanted to open a bakery. Studying recipes, experimenting with different ovens, and obviously making delicious cakes is working in the business. Making sure that your customers can find you, creating business cards, potentially starting a YouTube channel to show people how to make cakes, boring stuff like optimizing accounting and inventory is working on the business. Now, my friend is not an idiot. Obviously, she knew that she would have needed to do all of those things, but she completely underestimated how much time it would take and how much she would hate doing it. It's not nearly as much fun as baking a delicious cake. Now let's finally talk about us, the programmers. Fun stuff like building stuff, learning another language, or maybe a different stack is working in the business being your career. Learning how to write your CV, or outsourcing it, learning how to behave in an interview, networking, improving the communication with your project manager is working on the business. In fact, it's so much easier to build software for other people's businesses if you run a business of your own, or at least know how to look at things from the business perspective. You have no idea how many times I'm sitting in meetings and the requirements are, we need A, B, and C, and I'm like, no, you don't, especially if we had D. Now, at the end of the day, it's not my business to decide what is being built, but hiding my professional opinion is, well, unprofessional. And again, how do you do this without offending anyone? People skills. Having this entrepreneurial mindset is like having a superpower. It allows you to understand what matters in your day-to-day and invest in those things. People skills are useful across the board. Your career will take off, your managers will be happy, you'll get more interesting projects, you'll get so much more money, it's crazy. And also, people skills are social skills, so your social life will improve, your relationships will improve, or your dating life will improve, your family relationships will improve. And in fact, this is what this entire channel is all about. It's improve the developer inside you. By the way, the last time I talked to our hiring manager, he told me that the reason why we couldn't find Scala developers was not the lack of their Scala skills, it was the fact that they lacked English skills, because you can't build software if you can't communicate with the rest of your team or other stakeholders. At this point, I'm beating this horse to death because I've seen how hard it is, especially for programmers, to accept the true ratio between people and technical skills. Obviously, I'm pulling the exact number out of a very dark place, but we are programmers and we like numbers, so here it comes. 75% of your success comes from people skills, and only the remaining 25% from your technical skills. I know you want to believe that it's the other way around, or at least you think it's not fair. I know your brain is fighting this, so please, do yourself a favor and read some of those books that I mentioned in this video. There is a really high chance that some of your colleagues know less than you but are being paid more than you, because this world is not run by computers, it's run by people. Which brings me to the story from the beginning of this video. It happened a couple of years ago. I was already a freelancer and I was looking for a remote client. The first interview was with the head of their HR and/or recruiting, a super nice guy. I loved the conversation. The next two rounds were technical interviews, and if you have seen my previous video, then you know that I didn't do well. The fourth round was letting me talk to their CEO, and right after that to one of their lead engineers. After all of that, they made me an offer that was extremely low. I won't give you any numbers, but don't worry, you'll understand how low it actually was in just a second. So I talked to this head of HR and/or recruiting or whatever again, and I'm asking him like, yo, why is it so low? And he said, well, according to what you did in the interview, this is how much we're paying for your skill level. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is the money I was getting straight out of college. And he said, well, you must have been overpaid. And I replied, well, I have many friends in the industry and they're being paid similar rates. He didn't have an answer for that. And so I asked, well, what is the highest engineering position you have at your company, obviously apart from head of engineering or CTO? And he replied, well, it's the lead engineer. And the thing is that they had like a normalized table for all kinds of skill levels. And so I asked, well, okay, well, how much does a lead engineer get? Guys, what he said was noticeably under 100K. I was like, yo, what are you talking about? My previous job was paying me that. He said again that I was probably overpaid. In any case, the point is that the super nice guy was abusing his people skills to freaking gaslight people into believing that these rates were normal. So the story is not about me rejecting the offer or me using my people skills to negotiate a rate that was twice as big with another company. The story is about the poor engineers who work there and don't know better. And so if you're one of them, or if you're someone in a similar situation, then this video is for you. You could be a better engineer than me and still get literally half of what I'm getting. So please invest in your people skills and thank me later. Or you could thank me now by hitting the like button, but you do you. Now, obviously it's not all about the money, but I recently saw his LinkedIn post, which triggered this video, by the way, in which he wrote something like, when choosing your next opportunity, don't choose the one with the highest salary, choose the one where you can grow, etc., etc. Guys, listen to me very carefully. Huge corporations are not the only ones who can pay decent rates. So there are plenty of companies out there who will properly invest in you and your growth without compromising your compensation. I remember in the beginning of my career, I didn't care about the money at all, but at the end of the day, we're just brains for hire. We get options if we're lucky, but otherwise it's other people's business, other people's dream that we're building. So I think it's fair to ask for a proper compensation for the time and effort that we put in, and especially the responsibility that we take on. Anytime we connect to ProdDB, for example, we could drop the whole thing for God's sake. Anyway, I'm blabbering at this point. Invest in your people skills, invest in your career, invest in yourself, and improve the developer inside you. I hope you enjoyed this one. Check out the previous one and I see you in the next one. For now, as always, it's me, Vlad from devinside.com. Don't forget to like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to improve the developer inside you, and if you wish to support tech education, please consider doing so on Patreon or GitHub sponsors, and thus watch my videos before everyone else. And most importantly, take care.